Hello, what is going on? I literally say it in every episode, but I'm super excited about today's topic because this is one of my favorite things to talk about because it really hits home. It's something that I struggled with for a very long time, and I learned and made so many mistakes. And I just want to talk to you about this topic because I know so many of you are personally dealing with this as well. So what we are talking about are the three mistakes. Well, there were definitely more, but we're talking about three of them, three of the mistakes that I made when I was trying to regulate my period. So if you're unfamiliar with my story, I had an irregular period literally from the day that I got it. I was 15 and a half years old when I first got my period. It was always irregular after that. Literally, it would come maybe 3 times a year, maybe every 6 weeks, and then it would skip a few months. There was no rhyme or reason to it. There was absolutely no pattern at all. And I had no clue that that was an issue. I was just like, oh, that's just like how my period is. Not a big deal. My doctor told me it was totally fine to have 3 to 4 periods a year. He's like, as long as you're getting about 3 to 4 times a year, like you're good. So I was like, okay, cool. Like my gynecologist said that's fine. So I'm gonna listen to him. I'm gonna believe him. So it's fine. No, red flag. If you have heard that, which I know some of you have because you reached out to me about it, that is complete bullshit. So please do not take that advice at all. We need to be ovulating on a regular basis. But so anyway, so that was my story. It was irregular for forever. I got a 15 and a half. And then I completely lost it when I was 26. I totally lost it for a full 2 years. That is when I really started diving into my nutrition. I went back to school for holistic nutrition, balanced everything out, figured it all out, finally got it back when I was 28 and regulated it out. At the time of this recording, and also I realized it was from mismanaged PCOS is the reason why I was not getting my period or it was coming irregularly. At the time that I'm recording this, I am almost 36 weeks pregnant. I'll be further along than that by the time you're hearing this, but and I am 33. So it was been a journey of all this going on. I had to actually literally just think about my age, but anyway, moving on. So 3 mistakes that I made when trying to regulate my period that you might be doing that I want you to avoid, because the whole point of me having this podcast, the whole point of me having the Mind Your Hormones method is to make sure that you don't have to take years and years and years like I did to get your period back. It literally takes my clients now on average 3 months to regulate their period when it actually took me years because of all these mistakes that I made. So we are going to get right to it. You know how we roll around here. So number one is that I was buying random herbs that I Googled. Like this was something that I did for so long. I tried every single herb under the sun. Maybe you could connect with this. I would Google natural ways to regulate your period. And if you are Googling that, like I want to just like salute you because I love that you're trying to do things naturally. I love that you obviously want to do things naturally, which is why you're listening to this podcast. And you don't just want to take synthetic hormones or go on birth control because you know what, that's not actually regulating your period. That's a whole nother episode. But I love that you're Googling that. Okay. That at least we're on the right track of wanting to do things naturally. However, that is not going to help you. Okay. So I did the same thing, natural ways to regulate my period. And I would even put in herbs that help regulate my period. I tried things like Vitex or chasteberry. It's the same thing. White peony, black cohosh, evening primrose. Like I tried them all. Those were always the ones that would come up. So I would like circulate through them. Be like, okay, let me try Vitex for like 3 months. Okay, nothing worked. All right, now I'm going to try white peony. Okay, that didn't work. White peony and licorice was like a combination I used a lot. Okay, that one didn't work. Now I'm going to try black cohosh. Okay, I'm going to do evening primrose with that, but I heard the evening primrose is good to do during this phase of your cycle, which didn't even have a cycle. Like I tried them all. Okay. Now, before we get going on this, I don't get it twisted. I love herbs. Okay. I am a huge proponent of herbs and supplementation. Like it is extremely, extremely important, and herbs are extremely powerful. I love them. I use them. I promote them. However, if you are not getting down to the root cause of why you don't actually have your period, herbs aren't going to do shit. Okay. Herbs are there to support you only when you have already addressed the root cause of the problem and you are making proper nutrition and lifestyle changes and addressing nutrient deficiencies from proper supplementation. They're not there. That's when they really help support you. That's when they help optimize everything that's going on. But it is not something that you could just like continue eating the way that you're eating, working out the way that you're eating, living your life the way that you're eating, like I was, because I didn't know that I was doing anything nutritionally that wasn't supporting my period. I was like, I eat really healthy. Like I have oatmeal for breakfast, or I was having Shakeology for breakfast. I was having like yogurt and an apple for a snack. I was having grilled chicken with salad for dinner. Like these are things that I was eating. I was like, I'm good at my nutrition. Like I had my 100-calorie packs. Like, okay, guys, like that was who I was at the time. Okay. Now, what I didn't realize was that the things that I was or was not doing day in and day out, that's the problem, but it's also the solution. So it's about what you are doing or what you are not doing every single day. That is the reason why you're not getting your period regularly. But it's also the solution, which is amazing, right? Because if we know what the problem is, then we can find the solution. So herbs are incredible. However, they are not going to do shit if you're not doing the proper nutrition and lifestyle changes that are going to get down to the root cause. So herbs are only like, don't waste your money on herbs until you have proper supplementation in place, until you learn how to make meals that actually balance your blood sugar, which I have a whole free training on that. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's actually a training that I pulled from the Mind Your Hormones method. We have a whole module on balancing your blood sugar. So there's multiple trainings in the Mind Your Hormones method on balancing blood sugar because it's so freaking important. But I pulled one of the trainings of how to actually create hormone balancing meals. I'll put that in the show notes for you. It's totally free. But if you're not doing these things first, don't waste your money on herbs. These are things that we have to get down first because they're going to help support the root cause of why you're actually not getting your period. So that's one of the mistakes I made. Okay. Number two was not looking at why I wasn't ovulating. Honestly, I had no idea that I wasn't ovulating. I didn't even really think about ovulation. I just thought like, okay, my period is the bleed, like that's what happens and that's it, right? Like I did not even think about ovulation when I wasn't getting my period. There were no dots connecting that I needed to ovulate to actually get a period. Like I really did not know that. I had zero education around it. And maybe you can connect with that. Maybe you have had no education around it. Maybe you are teaching yourself right now about, okay, we actually need to ovulate to get a period. That's the only way that we're actually getting a true period, which is why you don't actually get a true period when you're on birth control, because you're not ovulating when you're on hormonal birth control. It's shutting off the communication from your brain to your ovaries, so you're not ovulating. Specifically when you're on the pill, the NuvaRing, the depot shot, the implant, like you are not ovulating. Some IUDs you might be ovulating, some IUDs you might not be ovulating. It depends on the person. The only way to know is to track your basal body temperature. But I had zero knowledge around this. Okay. So the reason that your period / your bleed is irregular is because you are not regularly ovulating. Okay. So the question needs to be, what is your body not getting that it needs in order to actually ovulate? That is the question. The question isn't, why aren't I getting my period? The question is, why are we not ovulating? What is missing? What am I not giving my body? What am I doing? What am I not doing that is not allowing my body to ovulate? That is the question that we need to answer. And I could so clearly now, looking back, obviously hindsight is always 2020, what I was lacking and what my body needed, which is why I was not getting my period. I was not having enough carbohydrates because I was on the camp of listening to, society of, oh, carbs are bad. Carbs are going to make you gain weight. And at this time, I was also gaining weight out of nowhere. And I didn't know why, because I was going to spin classes. I was doing boot camp classes. I was literally hating my life at the gym because I freaking hated doing this shit, but I thought that's what I had to do. Like I was having 100-calorie packs. I was doing Shakeology. I was doing all those different workouts. And I was gaining weight. It was not making any sense to me. Obviously, now I know why, because that's not what your body needs. It's not what your hormone needs. And all my hormones were totally out of whack from doing all of that. But I was not having really any carbohydrates. I remember I was using my Fitness Pal for a certain period of time, and I was consuming only 50 grams. I would only allow myself, I think, 50 grams of carbs a day, which is crazy. Okay. We need carbs for energy. We need carbohydrates for our ovaries to actually function properly. Okay. Obviously, good carbohydrates, which we're going to talk about at the end of like things that you could actually do. You know, I don't ever leave you hanging without giving you some tips. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why I was not getting my period, and not why I wasn't getting my period, why I was not ovulating, which was then the reason why I was not actually bleeding. Healthy fats. I was not having enough healthy fats whatsoever. I did not know how to eat to support my blood sugar. I don't even think I even knew what blood sugar was. I thought that was probably just for people who had diabetes or something. At the time, I had no knowledge around blood sugar and hormones, nothing at all. I definitely had inflammation in my body that needed to be reduced, and I was way over exercising for my body. I needed to slow that shit down because my adrenals were like, hey, we fucking hate this. Okay. You need to stop because this is not helping us. This is actually causing you to have more inflammation. This is dysregulating your nervous system even more. It's just was further digging the hole of me not getting my period, not ovulating, not having balanced hormones, which not only was that resulting in me not bleeding and not getting a period, which at the time I was just like, oh, whatever. Like, I'm not trying to get pregnant right now. So like, who cares? Who wants to bleed every month anyway? Like that was kind of my mentality at a certain point until I really started understanding it. But it also was the reason why I was getting monthly migraines and why I had IBS and I was bloated constantly and constipated and I had rashes all over my body and I was having facial hair growth, like all of these things. And I was gaining weight, didn't know why. I did not connect the dots between all of those symptoms with each other or all the symptoms with not getting my period, but it was all connected. Okay. So that's number two. Number one was trying all these freaking different herbs, throwing shit at the wall, seeing what stuck. None of it worked because herbs are not going to support you unless you're also changing things in your nutrition, in your lifestyle, the stuff that you are or are not doing day in and day out. Number two was not looking at why I wasn't ovulating. I literally didn't even know to think about that. And the third thing is I was doing acupuncture without any other lifestyle changes, similar to the herb conversation. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm obsessed with acupuncture. I literally go weekly. I have been going like, let me see, since 2000. Well, I started back when my period was totally out of whack when I was like 26, not getting a period at all, trying to figure out what was going on. But I've been going consistently for years, almost a decade. I've been going to acupuncture and I absolutely love it. I'm a huge proponent of it. However, because it really did change my life. Like like, let me just like back up. It really did change my life. And like I said, it's something I still do weekly, even throughout my pregnancy. I'm obsessed with it. It 100% contributed to me regulating my period. It absolutely did. But for years, I went to acupuncture without without seeing any changes in my period at all, because I wasn't making any other changes in my day-to-day life. How I was actually working out, how I was living my day-to-day, what I was eating every day. So I was just going to acupuncture because I heard acupuncture helps regulate your period, but I wasn't changing anything else. I wasn't balancing my blood sugar. I wasn't reducing my inflammation. I wasn't working on my gut or my liver or my nervous system. I wasn't doing any of these things. So there was no change in my menstrual cycle. And I went for so long. It wasn't until I started going to acupuncture and making those nutrition and lifestyle changes that my period began to regulate out. When I tell you I went for years without seeing any results from acupuncture, it was a really long time. And acupuncture is it's an incredible modality. Like I highly recommend it, but just like herbs, like I recommend as well, it has to be in conjunction with what you're doing day in and day out. Like that is what I want you to leave this episode with, is that shit is not going to change if you aren't changing the stuff that you are doing every single day. Because if you think about it, if you're doing things every single day that you don't even know are negatively impacting your hormones, obviously it's like putting a block up. Like, it's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy here. Like if there's a fire going off and you are like using the extinguisher to put it out, but then someone's also at the same time putting gas on the fire. So it's like, you're blowing it out, but you're also putting gas on at the same time. So it's like, it's not going to get it out. So we have to first, okay, let's remove the gas from the fire. Let's remove all these obstacles that we have in our way, like having our blood sugar be dysregulated, like over exercising and under eating and not knowing how to create these hormone balancing meals. And, you know, all these things, all these pesticides, all these, like everything that we always talk about. Not sleeping properly, not knowing how to manage our stress, like all these things. Let's remove those barriers. And then let's take the fire extinguisher and that shit's going to go out and your hormones are going to balance out. It just literally is science. Okay. So I also want to give you a bonus one because I was like, I give you, let's do 3, but I'm just going to give you a bonus one because that's how we roll around here. Okay. So the fourth mistake that I made was that I thought my cycle would just eventually come back. I was like, well, it's eventually going to regulate out. Like, it's just eventually going to happen. It's going to be fine. Or I thought both of these things. This is just my normal. This is just what my cycle looks like. Everybody is different. I'm personally just somebody that doesn't get a regular period. I get it every few months, but this is just my normal. This is how my body always is. There's nothing that I'm going to do that's going to change it. Like, this is literally what I thought for a really long time because it's all that I knew. It's not like I had a regular period and then all of a sudden went whacked. I never, ever, ever had a regular period. So I was like, oh, this is just like how it is for me. Like, this is just what it is. And that's what it is. And I wasted so much time on that because I also did not know how important it was to actually get your period regularly, to actually ovulate regularly and make the hormone progesterone, because that is how we make progesterone. And yes, of course, that's the hormone that's needed to get pregnant and to hold on to a pregnancy and to thrive throughout your pregnancy, which I'm so grateful for now. But it is also supporting your bones and your thyroid and your metabolism, and it's reducing your chances of getting osteoporosis and heart disease and endometrial cancer and later in life. If I had known that at the time, I would have put a bigger fire under my ass to get shit under control, even though I didn't want to get pregnant at the time, because it doesn't matter. If you don't ever want to have a baby, you still need to be ovulating for your overall health and wellness and for your long-term health and wellness. Like, it is so freaking important. And that was another huge mistake I made. And I actually just learned this when I interviewed Kelly Kendall from The Balanced Boob, all about breastfeeding. If you are someone who is thinking about getting pregnant, maybe you're currently pregnant or just listening to this episode, I'll put the link below too from that episode. It was freaking amazing. But I learned that you having a regular period and you ovulating, it increases the more that you have a regular period, the more granular tissue in your breasts that you acquire. And that granular tissue is going to have an effect on your milk supply. So I'm like, fuck, all these years of me not having a regular period, I didn't know was also going to possibly impact my breastfeeding journey. Like, all of it is connected. Okay. So it is so freaking important for you to be regularly ovulating and to know that it's not just your normal. Okay. It is not just going to come back. Like, it's not going to. It's not just going to come back. It's not just going to regulate out without you giving your body what it's currently lacking that is causing the irregular period in the first place. It's also just, it's not your normal. Okay. Please know that it's not your normal. If your cycle is off, it is your body's way of communicating with you that it is missing something. Okay. So here are some action steps that I want you to take. Number 1, stop Googling and trying random herbs if you haven't already addressed your inflammation levels, your blood sugar, your gut, your liver, your nutrient deficiencies. These are the major root causes of all hormonal imbalances. These are all the different modules in the Mind Your Hormones method. Literally, this is why I created the Mind Your Hormones method, because I had no freaking clue about all of this and I want to save you time. Okay. So stop Googling this shit. That is number 1. Number 2 is spend your money on at least a high quality multivitamin. Instead of spending your money on these random herbs or random cleanses or any of this other shit, spend your money on a high quality multivitamin. On at least that, some magnesium bisglycinate, and some vitamin D3. Those are the things I want you to spend your money on supplemental wise first before even thinking about herbs, because we have to get our nutrient density up, and a high quality multivitamin is the way to do that. I personally love Pure Encapsulations, one multi. Unless you are someone who is trying to conceive within the next 6 months, then I would do the Needed Prenatal. However, if you are someone that wants to conceive soon, I would highly recommend having a regular period at least for 4 months before you start trying, because we have to build up those progesterone levels. We want our body to be as regular as possible before trying to conceive. Okay. But if you're trying to conceive in 6 months or less, go to the prenatal from Needed. If you are not trying to conceive ever or anytime soon, do the Pure Encapsulations one multi. The link will be below for that. Magnesium bisglycinate specifically, I literally talk about this all the time. Gut Personal is a sponsor on the show. They have the magnesium bisglycinate and the vitamin D3 that I recommend. Literally, vitamin D3 is a hormone in the body. We have to be having this. And it also helps us absorb our magnesium better. They work together. So magnesium bisglycinate, I'm obsessed with the Miracle Worker magnesium. It is 100% the best one that I've ever tried. My clients are obsessed with it. You get the capsule form, you get the powder form, whichever one you want. Vitamin D3 plus K2, because the K2 helps you absorb the vitamin D3. I personally always recommend the drops because you get to customize it based off of your specific needs, what your blood work comes back in, as if you're low in. I'll put the links below for that. If you get the magnesium bisglycinate and the vitamin D3 from Gut Personal brand, which is what I recommend, and I've been using for years, you could use code Corinne for a discount for that, and that will be in the show notes as well. So that is the second thing I want you to do. Number one, stop Googling and wasting your money on herbs if you haven't already addressed the major root causes of your hormonal imbalances. Number two is at least spend your money on a high quality multi, magnesium bisglycinate, and vitamin D3. And number three is looking at your healthy fat and carb intake. Having at least 2 tablespoons of a healthy fat with every single meal, and incorporating healthy carbs into your daily diet, like quinoa, brown rice, sweet potatoes, oats, millet, legumes, with a healthy fat and with a protein to balance your blood sugar, which if you're like, Corinne, I have no freaking clue how to create a hormone balanced meal, check out the free training I have. I pulled it straight from the Mind Your Hormones method. So go check it out. Your ovaries need carbs and healthy fats to function and to produce sex hormones. So it is 100% needed. If you're not having any carbs and you're not having enough healthy fats, it will affect your ovaries and it will affect you ovulating. Okay. So those are your action steps. Please let me know how this episode landed for you. I hope that it was helpful for you. You know, this topic is close to my heart. I could go on and on and on about this. I am with you. I understand what you're going through, if this is what you're going through right now. And I hope this supports you. I love you so freaking much. Thank you for being here. And I will talk to you soon.